Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. This is Lounge Fever, a series of videos where we try to answer your questions. And today let's talk about how you can plot a sprint velocity chart. Now, although this didn't come as a question from anyone, but we recently talked about how you can plot a burn down chart. And I thought it would be good to kind of go over the sprint velocity chart as well, because when you manage real life agile projects, you are going to see burn down charts and sprint velocity charts as well. So let's talk about how you can plot them. Also, if you want to go over other such Lounge Fever videos that we have done in the past on agile topics, check out the first link in the description below. And if you want to go over the burn down chart video where we talked about how you can plot the burn down chart, that will also be linked in the description, the second one in the description below. So you can check that out. Anyways, let's move on. So what is sprint velocity? Before we talk about the sprint velocity chart, let's talk about what exactly sprint velocity is. Sprint velocity helps you figure out how much work can be completed in a sprint. So you look at the sprint velocity number and you will be able to figure out how much work you should take for your upcoming sprint. And it is basically the number of story points that you have completed in each sprint. Remember, we are talking about number of story points. We are not talking about number of user stories, because one user story may have 5 story points. One user story, the other user story may have 2 story points. So we are not talking about the number of user stories here. We are talking about the number of story points. By the way, if you don't know what user stories are or what story points are, you need to go over the videos around these topic, and I'll share a link. The third link in the description will be the entire playlist of all the agile videos that we have done. Check them out, understand a bit more about story points and user stories, and then come back here. So the number of story points completed in each sprint determines your sprint velocity. Now, based on the velocity of past sprints, the scrum team can figure out how much work they should commit to for the upcoming sprint, right? So you can take a look at your past 3 or 4 sprints and you can figure out how many story points you were able to complete in those sprints. Based on that, in the upcoming sprint you can figure out how many story points should you commit to. All right, let's take a look at the chart, right? How does sprint velocity chart look like? So that's how a sprint velocity chart looks like. On the bottom, you will see sprint 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are basically 4 sprints. And here you will see the number of story points. Remember, story points, not user stories. So these are story points. In sprint 1, the team was able to complete 12 story points. In sprint 2, the team was able to complete 14 story points, 17 in 3 the third sprint, and 20 story points in sprint 4. So you can see the team was able to increase their velocity when it comes to the number of story points that they have completed. This might not always be the case, but this is just an example to show you how a sprint velocity chart looks like. It is a simple bar chart plotted using the number of user stories in done column of the task board. If you don't know what a task board is, I'll share a direct link to the video where we talked about task board. I actually showed you how a task board looks like and how it is used. So check out the fourth link in the description. It will be about task board. So user stories in the task board and their corresponding story points, that is what is plotted here. Now, the team delivered different number of story points in each sprint. This is something that we have seen 12, 14, 17, and 20. Team delivered more story points in sprint 4 than in sprint 1 because perhaps the team was new here. Perhaps the team didn't understand the requirements better and they were then able to understand the requirements better. They were able to understand the kind of project that they were working on. They were also able to understand, and were able to kind of work in a better way with their co-workers. So that's how the team was able to deliver more as they went ahead, right? Sprint 1 was the least number of story points they delivered, while come sprint 4 they were able to deliver the most number of story points. Based on this study that based on this chart that we see, the Scrum team can also figure out how many story points they can deliver in future sprints, right? So the number of stories, and of course the number of stories should correspond to the number of story points. So how many story points can they deliver in future sprints? So anywhere between 15 and 20, the team will be very comfortable in delivering, because that's what we see based on the past 4 sprints. So this is another type of chart. It is known as sprint velocity with committed story points. So in the previous slide, we talked about just the velocity, sprint velocity chart that had the story points that the team was able to accomplish. Now in this chart, we are also going to take a look at how many story points the team basically committed to deliver. So story points the team committed to deliver are in blue bar graphs that you see here, the blue bars. These are the number of story points that the team committed to, and the green ones are the ones that the team actually delivered. So you can see that the team committed to 10 story points in first sprint, but they were able to deliver 12 story points. This is fantastic, right? Nothing like this. But in the second sprint, the team got a bit overconfident and they committed that they are going to deliver 16 story points, but they were only able to deliver 14. And then in sprint 3, they committed to 18 and were able to deliver 17. But this is still better than sprint 2. The difference is just 1. The difference was 2 in sprint 2. And come sprint 4, the team was able to meet whatever that they commit to. They were committing for 20 story points and they actually delivered 20 story points. So although the velocity is different in each sprint, right? The velocity is different: 12, 14, 17, and 20. Remember, velocity is the number of story points delivered. So the velocity is different for each sprint. But if you observe, the team now has a fair idea about the number of story points that they can deliver. And that's why towards the end in sprint 4, the team was able to commit to 20 story points and they actually delivered 20 story points. So this is another way of representing sprint velocity. You basically plot the story points that you commit to, and then you plot the story points that you actually deliver. I would like to invite you to join our free community, pmclounge.com/community. We have a LinkedIn group, Facebook group. A lot of people share their experience, testimonials. We have the groups like I just said. So head over to pmclounge.com/community. Everything's free. Question for this video: how useful has the sprint velocity chart been for you on your real life projects? How useful has this whole exercise been? Has your Scrum team made use of these charts and were able to figure out how many story points they should commit to? Let me know in the comments. Definitely looking forward to your answers. So that's all that we had in this video. I hope you got value out of it. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified every time we upload new content. If you like our work, consider contributing at pmclounge.com/contribute. And if I forgot to mention, please hit the like button. It helps us stay motivated and create more free content for you. Thank you and have a nice day.